Where are the dongs? Oh. Okay. Welcome to the final meeting before Regulation 15 of the Neighbourhood Plan Advisory Committee. And we nearly have a full house, which is delightful, plus two bonus people who have come to watch this meeting. So welcome to you all. Do we have apologies?
Yes, we have got apologies from Jerry Stanford. Unfortunately was unable to attend physically tonight.
And Jerry, of course, has been a stalwart member of the group for the last 6 years and has given us a phenomenal level of input, especially his expertise on transport. Any declarations of interest? No? Okay, going straight on to the minutes of the last meeting. Do I have somebody to move them? And a seconder, Brian? Marvellous. All those in favour? Okay. All right, public forum. Whether either of the members of the public like to speak? No. Okay, moving on. And we're actually moving on within the bongs of the town hall clock, which is quite good. Item 6. So, document approval. This is the meat of the meeting. Document approval post the health check. So just to remind you all, this is the draft of the plan that we've been working on for so long. It's the basic condition statement, which we've only seen recently from Michael, that is one of those documents that accompanies all neighbourhood plans. It is the consultation statement, which is a kind of synopsis of everything we've done to reach out over the years to Coners of all different groups and stripes and tribes and to get their input. And finally, it is the site assessment report, which is looking at the sites we've got and weighing those against the requirements that we need to meet. So on this point, I'll pass over to Michael and he can talk you through where we're up to.
Thank you. In terms of the various documents, and a number of suggested changes have been received by email. So what I'll do is I'll go through each document and just quickly run through those. Most of them are fairly minor amendments and probably don't need any further discussion. In terms of the main plan itself, no further change is identified there, but there are 2 amendments to the policy map. One to add in rugby pitches at Holt House, and the second to amend the boundary of the Upper Rough. So I'm assuming that you're going to be happy with both of those suggested changes. In terms of the basic condition statement, there are a couple of sort of minor changes again. One in terms of a spelling mistake, and then for the first appearance of CNDP, the abbreviation for Colne Neighbourhood Development Plan, that should be stated as an abbreviation, so they're fairly straightforward. One thing that Jerry suggested at paragraph 313 of the basic condition statement is, he's asked the question, is it worth adding that the neighbourhood plan encourages and supports the development of new and extensions to existing nature reserves? The other thing I'd say is that's not a planning matter. Nature reserves can be declared by district councils and town councils if they have that power under different legislation. So what I describe it as a nice to have. We could probably find somewhere to add that in, but obviously if it goes in the basic condition statement, it has to go in the main plan as well. It has to be stated twice. Yeah. So I think that's something you need to reach a decision on that one. I don't know, you want to break at that point and pick that up?
Yeah, so essentially, if I'm understanding you correctly, it is something that would be protected anyway. The reason Jerry did it, as you said, would be a nice to have, but it would be more work across 3 documents.
Yeah, it's not going to fundamentally alter the neighbourhood plan. The neighbourhood plan's not going to carry a policy because you've already got core strategy policy covers that. They're declared under other legislation. So that's why I'm describing it. It's a nice to have, but it's far from essential.
Okay, so opening the floor to the members of the committee to see what they think. Howard.
No, I think I agree with that. I mean, the things are protected, whether we put them in or not. So, if people want to put it in, I wouldn't argue against it. But I think it's a bit belt and braces, but I wouldn't suggest that we do really.
Okay, so really what we're weighing is the disruption to the benefit. David.
Yeah, I think as well, if it talks about new or adding to existing ones, then, you know, if you think about the new ones that might be on the horizon, we might be doing something on Gib Hill at some point. But I suppose that'll happen when it does. It's not like it's got any other allocation of any kind anyway, so that's fine. And obviously we could cover it as part of our appropriate monitoring, you know, our annual or periodic monitoring, I suppose. If a one came up or one was new or something, then we could see what the impact of that would be on the overall plan. So
We are, of course, expecting a new nature reserve, aren't we, very soon? Okay, yeah.
Sorry, just realise as well, it doesn't have on the Greenfield Reserve, Nature Reserve, off
Yes.
Greenfield Road, which has been there a while. So, you know, I think it's better to not. Gib Hill at the minute isn't.
No.
One that isn't mentioned there.
No.
So I think we're just
to muddy the waters.
we're just opening a proverbial can of worms. Can I just ask a question about Michael jumped across the rough boundary amendment. Is that the boundary that we had in at the beginning?
Yes.
I couldn't find the original.
Yeah, so what happened is somehow in the revision, it had gone back to where the actual footpath is as opposed to the walls.
No, that's
So it's just a little, it's a little corner that sticks up.
Right. Yeah, but it wasn't clear from this, and I couldn't find the. Well, to be honest, I'd got fed up of looking at maps by that point. So I thought it was just easier to ask the question.
We're not seeking to redraw it at all. It's just a small tweak to get it right. Okay, so moving on, Michael.
In terms of the consultation statement, there's a couple of blank pages in there. They're there to help the pagination and separate out tables 1, table 2, which are the comments from Pendle and the comments from others. So I think to sort of just clear that up, I think we can just add in that this page is left intentionally blank on those two. Jerry's made a comment about the spelling of Alkin coats, which has generated lots of debate with Pendle Borough, but he's adamant that it is with an E, so we'll leave that unchanged. And then there's a couple of there's one on transport, adding that West Yorkshire Council are also supportive, so we can make that amendment. And then Appendix 2, yes, it should say statutory bodies and other.
Just before you jump, West Yorkshire County Council doesn't exist anymore, does it? Be North Yorkshire.
North Yorkshire.
When I started to read that, I thought, what does he mean then? Yeah, it must be North.
It must be North Yorkshire because that covers Thornton, Skipton. That may all not exist shortly, but for now it does.
Okay, carry on, Michael.
I'll pick it up now because it's not on the agenda. There were some changes as well to the strategic environmental assessment HRA, which has been previously approved. Again, a typo suggested there's an appendix for the abbreviations. Then one of the column has, it only says yes or no, when actually the answers could be yes or no, or question mark, don't know. So what I'll do is I'll amend that column heading, so we can take on board all of those.
So we could bring the HRA to the next meeting for approval again with those small tweaks. Is that what we should do?
Well, I would hope that, because you need the SCA, it has to be.
Oh, yes, yes.
So that's.
I know, but how best to deal with it from a council perspective?
Probably, bring it to the next. It has already been approved.
Just to cover ourselves
Oh,
with these small changes. Yes, okay.
Then there was some comments on the site assessments report from Alice. From my perspective, the bigger point here is the site assessments report's been on the go for 4 years now. It's been through numerous iterations. The sites that were assessed came from Pendle Slaw, or they were Combe Town Council identified sites. And we really have been round the houses on this one. You know, most people in one meeting or another have agreed to what's gone in for the sites. So I would urge you not to make any further changes. If we do, I just think further delays where we are. And the site assessment process has been robust, open, and transparent. I have no reason to criticise it, and I don't see why others should. So I'm more than happy to say to you, that report should stay as is.
Okay, Alice.
I don't want to rock the boat. It's just that I don't feel that the land east of Waterside Road, it's in our protected space now. Essex Street, as it is on the map, as far as I can see, perhaps I'm reading it wrong, but from the map, the whole of that site is shown as a housing development site, whereas we have also said that half of that site should be a protected space. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't add up. We're saying one thing and then we're saying another thing. So I can't see how we can justify accepting that as it is without the border, without the boundary being changed.
David.
If you remember the process that site went through, we identified the whole thing and the scoring was done on it, and it amounted to 30 houses. Then Michael produced an extra document, this is a Word document where he was exploring the changes, and that chopped off the top bit. So that's why it's only in for 24 houses, because as you say, that's the housing site and that's the green space. So the actual site assessment was done on the whole thing. And I think Michael would say that the audit trail, as it were, taking you through the journey was the initial assessment, and then it was split into two, big bit and a small bit. And therefore, when the final policy comes in, you see the different colours on the policy map. So, yeah, that was done a few years back. That was done.
Howard.
As I say, I actually put the map on full size and nearly wore my poor computer out. When you zoom in on it, it's clearly that if you just look at it as the thing, you can't see the green blob. You can see the orange blob or whatever colour it defined as. But when you zoom in, you can see clearly that there is a boundary around it.
And of course, that's all described in words as well, just for the, avoidance of doubt.
There is one minor thing that I didn't spot earlier, where it's called Primmet Bridge is in fact on Notts Lane.
I think that was one of Alice's changes.
Yes.
So he's coming on to that because that was in the list.
Sorry.
So I'm sensing, apart from Alice, the sort of temperature of the room is that we progress as we are. Yeah? Yeah?
Can I just, I did get an email from Jerry, and with regards to the site assessment. I just want to pose this to Michael, if I can. He just put, the only thing that occurred was to wonder if we are making enough of the fact that most of the sites we pose for development would be for affordable housing, often in the most deprived areas, with the double intent of encouraging local youngsters to purchase and to raise standards at the same time.
I'm not sure, based on the viability evidence that we have, that that's correct. Because the viability is saying that if you put these extra requirements on in terms of design and affordability, then the sites are not necessarily viable. I'm not saying there wouldn't be a proportion of affordable housing in line with the core strategy, but I think to add that into the neighbourhood plan would be potentially quite dangerous, in that it really does sort of undermine the viability case. So I'd recommend you don't.
If I could come in here, I think the pair of you, not you, Gina, because you're representing Jerry, but Jerry and Michael are talking cross purposes. So you're thinking, or Jerry is thinking, this is an area where hopefully the homes will be affordable because the land prices aren't high. But Michael is rightly taking the correct definition, which is 20% off the total asking price, and obviously that would affect our viability adversely. And in fact, as a tier 1 service centre within Pendle, all of our sites don't have any affordable homes on the whole. It's rural Pendle that has the affordable homes. So I think Jerry is using what you'd call common sense logic, which totally makes sense, but we have to respond to the core strategy and the NPPF, which sometimes doesn't. And I think what you just said, Michael, is exactly right. And we can pass that on to Jerry, can't we?
Yeah, I would say to avoid confusion, it's probably best to yeah.
Yeah. Okay, take it away. No, I think you were working through. You'd moved from the sites that Alice had put forward this morning or last night. And then there were some more small changes which were to do with the names of some of the roads within Waterside. If you remember. What to say, Khyber Street?
Yeah. Yeah, there are some suggested name changes. So the page 93 site assessment site should be south of South Valley Drive, so we can change that. There was the question about the Primmet Bridge, which is actually Knott's Lane. And then there's the Khyber Street site, which at the time it was in the site assessments, that's the name we had for it, which I think came from the SLAR that Pendle were doing. But we've had discussions, I think, in the last 12-18 months where it was mentioned Khyber Street doesn't exist, and so that site has a different name in the plan itself. But the site assessment document, I think you have to remember, it's a sort of it's a document that's moved through the last 4 years. So the first version is 2018, and what we've done is we've added updates each time we've done it. So I'm very reticent to go back and change the original assessments. I think they stand as a moment in time, and that's how I'd recommend you treat those. They were a moment in time.
So it's a bit like I suggested that Paul Foxley redo 2 of his montages to take account of, I don't know, I can't remember now, it might have been the health centre, it might have been number 62, and you said no, it's 2019. it's perfect for 2019. It's clearly stated as 2019. That's it. And Michael and I spoke this morning and I said, actually, because we're constantly passing planning applications and so on, things are constantly happening within Cone, as we all know, every single month. We could update our plan to take account of the changing sort of moving target that is Cone. We could change it every single week, but that way madness lies. So I suppose there has to be, you're right, and say, it was right then, and that's what it is. And it's clearly demonstrably a place on a map in any case.
Yeah, that's my advice. It's not unknown because you know you're going to get objections to the neighbourhood plan at the next stage. It's not unknown that tiny little things like that can get picked up and can cause no end of problem when you get to the independent examination. So my advice is it was a snapshot in time. That's what we believe the site to be called. We've since changed our mind and there's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't go back revising things that were done in good faith 4 years ago.
Okay, well, I mean, we pay you to give us your advice, having done many more neighbourhood plans than we certainly have. So I think that it makes sense to accept that. Brian?
I suggest it was wrong then and he's wrong now. But if you want to stick by it.
I think, well, it came from Pendle, truth be told. That's where it came from, with their call for sites and their schla. Okay. All right. Is everybody happy, though, with Michael's advice? All right. There was a little bit more. There was one missed consultation that John Birchenough spotted was in one document and not in another. Yeah. It's just simply one of the, we showed it on the flyer for our one of our consultations. Was it 2018?
Yeah, it was the mostly flyer advertising the locations and dates of the auctions in
2018. So it's just, yeah. So So it's just an extra line, just to make sure that we're complete and we've got that in. Was there anything else?
I don't have the emails in front of me.
I can, I think it was just.
I think it was that. That was the last one. Yeah.
I think I did forward it to you, Mike.
I forwarded it.
Again.
Yeah. Okay. Alice?
Sorry, I just need to get it completely clear in my head that we're not putting the land east of Waterside Road in as a housing site and also as a protected space. We're not doing that. There is a distinction in the boundary.
Yes.
There is. Brilliant. No problem.
So we basically are, they're adjacent to each other.
Yeah.
One is
fine.
one and another is another.
Yeah, as long as the boundary's there.
Brian?
Has Michael finished now?
Seemingly, yeah.
Can I just request that when the amendments have been made, we can do a standard spelling check and grammar check on all three documents. It's a quick check, and there are some mistakes, I think.
Are there?
Yeah, I don't want to say any, I just do a standard check before we do it.
Well, I mean, I read it and I thought that I had caught them all. You read it, you thought you'd caught them all. I was very much hoping to go tomorrow to Nelson with all the documents.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Perhaps I'm looking at previous versions after you spoke with Michael. I've got them up here and I've just done a quick spell check on them. There's quite a few.
Are there? Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, can I give you 24 hours to do it?
Wait, just give you suggestions of what it is, and just simple spelling mistakes, and maybe an E missing off Alkin courts and things that he picked up before.
Right. I mean, are you prepared to look at these tomorrow?
I hope I'm looking at the correct versions here.
Right, okay. I think we need to be certain that you're looking at the correct version.
It's American.
Okay, go on.
Well,
Just do that.
So I'm looking at, I've done the plan, I've been on the plan, consultation statement, just going through it now, I think the 20, and they're all local names.
I mean, certainly David and I came up with 4 pages of suggestions when we ran through it, but they're all made. Oh, yes, you have to leave it. You have to leave it.
Right, yeah, so it might be.
That's true. There are loads of spelling mistakes there, but it's not for us to correct their English because we changed how they've written it.
consultation statement.
Yes. So is it a person or is it, because if it's the person has written in, that's what we're just saying.
Right.
Yes.
Fair enough. Well,
That's
a
it.
person.
There were loads of those, you know. Because we change their meaning potentially as well, don't we?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all people.
Okay. Oh, that's a relief. I'm glad you raised it and we cleared that up. Okay. So they're all the changes, which actually, really, if you think of it, are not very many at all. We've come down to that, and I would like to thank you all for all of your commas and spotting things all over the place. All of that's so important because you do become document blind after a while, and it's easy to say, I've read all of this before and it's all fine. It's so important that more eyes look at them. I think that we've got it as good as we can. So obviously in the next meeting, what I would like to happen is that Michael just runs through the actual changes that we agreed to make in this meeting, and that Gina, as soon as she receives it from Michael tomorrow, presses print, and then I'll come round in my Nissan Duke and we'll load it all in and drive to Nelson, and that would be marvellous. So items for a future month's agenda, well, we don't know when that will be. We might need to have a meeting during the Pendle consultation. I don't know. They run the consultation. We don't run it. It's not really for us now, but I think that we'd all like to help. Go on, David.
Do you want to move the documents as being,
Okay.
we recommend them?
Okay. Would somebody like to move the documents?
You should.
I will move the documents from the chair, all of the changes to be recognised. Do I have a seconder? Brian. All those in favour? Okay, marvellous. So yes, we don't know whether we have anything for future month's agenda. We obviously want to cooperate with Pendle's consultation, but we're not running it. All we can do is help and support and encourage. So therefore, we cannot give a date and time of the next meeting, but obviously we're going to stay in touch. This is very live. They've got 6 weeks to turn this around, to make a consultation. Am I right? Go on.
I don't think there's a time limit on it.
Okay, we can chivvy them.
They have to check everything's in order. If it is, then there's no impediment to starting the Regulation 16 consultation. The main thing that I would suggest when the documents are handed over to Pendle is the need for them to issue a determination in terms of the strategic environmental assessment.
Yes.
That they agree with the original report's conclusions and there is no further work needed for strategic environmental assessment purposes, particularly on the historic environment.
Yes.
So that's one thing that they have to do before the submission consultation starts.
They need to clear that up.
Yeah.
I think I would be grateful, therefore, if as well as all the documents in my Nissan Duke, you could give me a formal covering letter. I understand those issues. I've discussed them with John Holton informally. He was very encouraging about it, but I think we need to have a paper trail. So if you could give me a covering letter to accompany the stack, I think that would be appreciated.
Yep, that's, yep. that's
And in
fine.
terms of you making those changes and getting those changes to Gina,
The text I'll probably do tomorrow. The mapping maybe Thursday or Friday,
okay,
but the text is, yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
marvellous. At least we know where we're going. So potentially we go on Friday or potentially we go next week. All right, so at that point, I close this meeting and then I'll got the seat warm for Mary and she can take